Okay, I think I have a completely different relationship with money than I used to because lately, every time I think about having more money, I am not fantasizing about what I could buy. I am fantasizing about what I could stop doing. I am way more interested in using money to buy back pieces of my life that have been suppressed and choked and suffocated for so long, instead of using money to buy things, to buy services, to buy conveniences that essentially just make my exhausting life more tolerable. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share with you my savings philosophy that has enabled me to save over 3 years of expenses in a country that I've always wanted to visit to and that I'm about to move to, Spain. And so, if you're new here, hello everybody. My name is Jessie, and on this channel, we talk about what it means to build a life that you actually want, how to challenge the limiting beliefs that keep you stuck, and to move forward in directions that you've always wanted to, because life happens so fast. So many voices and circumstances, situations, constraints are so loud that make our decisions at major forks in our life that enable us to go down these paths that we never would have chosen on our own. So this channel is essentially like an invitation to be like, come here, come here, sit down, think about what you want, and here are some strategies to actually do it, because it is so possible. What you want is so possible. I do not have a roadmap to get what I want. So I'm building one, and I'm sharing it online to say to you that whatever it is that you want, whether it is moving to another country, whether it's moving to another city, whether it's like sparking a new relationship, whether it's leaving a relationship, beginning a new job, starting your own business, whatever it is, you can do it. You can do it. And I've done many of those things, and I've failed at many of those things, so I have a lot of lessons. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So we live in a culture where your status is displayed by things and what you have, right? Where is your house? How big is your house? What is in your house? Do you have things on a shelf that are just for display and that you just dust every now and then? What kind of car do you have? What make and model is it? Is it this bracket or that bracket? Because that can determine your romantic choices and if a gal will go out with you or not, right? And a lot of those like economic displays bleed into how we perceive humans overall. Like, wow, they must be so hardworking. Wow, they must be so smart. Wow, they must be this, they must be that. And speaking to characters, but it's like, you don't know if these people are enjoyable to be around. You don't know if they're good people, if they're altruistic, if they're kind, if they're adventurous, if they're inspiring, like all of those things of people that you would love to be around. It does not mean that if you're successful economically, that those things are true, which I think are the meatier things in life, because you cannot take all this stuff with you, right? You can take memories, you can take relationships, those are the things that will matter when you're laying on your bed in the end. Okay. And on the other hand, frolicking and like having adventures can be seen as having a lack of direction or a lack of discipline, or you're aimless, or you're running away from something. My ducks are flying. Or you're running away from something, right? Instead of, wow, you are adventurous, you're building memories, you're meeting people, you're sparking new ideas and projects and exploring this huge world. There is so much to life. There's so much more to life than grinding away at a job for decades upon decades, feeling like Karen in accounting is constantly trying to choke you out, learning all these strategies about how to navigate racial prejudice at work, how to navigate this at work. No. I know that those are all useful because those lessons have been so valuable to me, and they still are actively like in my life right now, like how to navigate it all. And also, it's like, to what end? Well, maybe to the end of just being unbothered and staying in those environments, like that is an option. But also maybe to an end of just exiting. Building your exit plan and hightailing it out of there because you have cracked a code on how to do so strategically and cover expenses for years of your life. Not saying that this will work for everybody, but yeah, I'm excited to like hop into my philosophy about how I was able to do this saving in a short period of time within, I want to say like eight months or so. And so I began looking at items, right? And using their value to think about what the equivalent amount of money could get me in experiences. So whether that is here in America, whether it is in Spain, whether it's in any other country that I want to go to that has a different currency, I would get the literal conversion when looking at expenses or when looking at services, looking at anything that's going to cost me money, thinking first about not the short term, but thinking about the long term. What could this get me in experiences? And that is what I call the freedom equivalent. What is the equivalent that this money could get me in freedom? So we're going to walk through a couple of examples, but this, y'all, I'm telling you, this has not only saved me money, but it has saved me brain space, because a lot of things that cost money cost something to maintain, whether it's my time, whether it's extra funds to ensure that it's like maintained and operating and moving forward and all this stuff. And it really made me think, like, what do I actually need versus what are these little luxuries that I'm trying to make my exhausting life more tolerable, that versus using that same money to eventually need less from the same life that I'm living right now. Okay, freedom equivalent. A couple of examples. So maybe you need a car. This does not have to be between getting a car and not getting a car, right? But it means maybe choosing a humbler option. So say, example of something that I literally wrote in my journal as I think through how to make purchases is, say you are looking at a car and you put $5,000 down and you're going to have like a car payment of like $700 a month. Instead of just buying like a really good used, maybe it's a little bit older, but it's like a Toyota or a Subaru and it's like really working well and running, of buying a car for like $5,000-$6,000, instead of putting down $5,000-$6,000 and having a car note, that $700 payment, as an example, could save you $8,400 a year. And maybe you're thinking, if I had to commute to this job every day, at least I'm going to drive something nice and buy this whatever $30,000 car or whatever. Instead of thinking about the freedom equivalent, guys, like at $2,800 a month and like bare bone expenses, that is 3 entire months of not working, or like going towards a sabbatical that you may want to take in a couple years or like in the very near future. Another example, if you had a bad week, and when I had a bad week years ago, retail therapy, like wandering around Target before they were canceled, would really help me. I would spend around $200 to $300 in one trip, and maybe I would do that twice a month, right? But say, for the sake of the argument, you spend $200 a month in retail therapy. So like things that you really don't need, but you're just trying to like fill the void that is in your soul. $200 a month. We all know that it's probably more, but that's $2,400 a year. So you can think about like Target runs, Amazon, Sephora, clothes, decor, like another cute little thing for the house, like from whatever, TJ Maxx if you go there. Nothing that's actually outrageous, but the freedom equivalent of that is at least 1 month off of work. And this one is so visually good because you can show a pile, like literally a pile of random purchases versus a calendar. Like put a calendar in your journal with 26 work days crossed off. And that's at $200 a month. Imagine if it's actually 4, or think about all these random purchases that you make. We know how quickly $40 goes, $60 go, $80. Oh, this random thing, like things that are unnecessary. Tally that up. Just keep track of it maybe at first. Tally it up. Say, extrapolate it out for a year as an average and be like, yo, for the life that I want, for this project that I want, for this like business license, for this whatever, this tool that I need to do take my side gig more seriously, whatever it is that you want to do, what is the freedom equivalent of this random purchase, right? Another example is like a luxury apartment upgrade that's maybe like $400 more than the apartment that you're in now. Maybe this is a mechanism to be like, if I'm going to work really hard, I want to come home to somewhere that I really love. And I understand that, like, I really pour into the spaces that I love because it's really important to like have those surroundings. But if you're trying to do something, if you're drastically trying to change your life, are you going to go into that luxury apartment with the job that you hate right now? Because if so, then you're raising your expenses and you're planning to stay in the place that sucks your life dry Instead of thinking $400 a month, that is $4,800 a year. Who cares about the granite countertops? Who cares about that gym that you barely probably use when you could just like go outside and like lift some rocks on the riverfront? You feel me? The resort style pool when you could go to the public joint. Like thinking about the alternatives where it's maybe a more humble choice, but it will afford you so much more freedom, because the freedom equivalent is like if your expenses are like $2,800 a month, that is like 2 months of living expenses. Let alone if you're thinking about, I don't know, like traveling to Southeast Asia or parts of South America where the cost of living per month is so much lower. Sure, maybe that's 2 months here in America, but what if you wanted to take a 6-7 month sabbatical in Thailand or in Laos or in Cambodia and just get away from everybody? What if you wanted to do that? Convert the currencies and figure out literally what it is. This investigation of like what the freedom equivalent is of all of the purchases that I make can sometimes, make me feel a little crazy, because I'm always just like, oh, okay, well, if I convert this to like euros and I do this, and I was like, do I really need this? And just like eat peanut butter and jelly. At first, it felt like, yo, you're doing too much. Like, do you really just want to have this tight of a grip and scanning all the money that's going out of the door? And the more I ask myself that, like, oh my gosh, am I tripping? I would always be like, nope. No, because from a high-performing, perfectionist, overworked, burnt out person who is always just so exhausted from whatever work situation I put myself in, because I do be doing too much. Like, I be doing too much. And I need to stop doing too much. And the way for me to do that is to get out of survival mode and scan my expenses, get control of my expenses, learn how to say no, learn how to like put things down and think about them, walk away, eat rice and beans with some nice chicken, like season it real nice. Like, I know how to cook. Like, I don't need all this fancy Grubhub and this and that. Like, I don't need all of that. And so what does humility look like in any margin that you have so that you can find your freedom equivalents for whatever material purchases you need to make, for whatever plane tickets you want to buy, for whatever apartments that you're trying to secure, Airbnbs, week-long vacation, 3 years worth of vacation, okay? Viewing things in this way can like really help like redefine what is valuable to you. And erase all that cognitive dissonance between what you have been thinking about, what you have been wanting, and what your behavior and your actions say. Align the two. Get out of the dissonance. Redefine what value actually means for you and act like it, right? It also helps us redefine what success looks like, because success does not always look like having this huge house. No. And therefore huge mortgage, right? Maybe. Depending on where you are, having this car, having these clothes that can get stains on them, just as this John. I got this John from the thrift store yesterday. Oh my gosh, I want to talk about that actually. One sec. But it also can really challenge like what signals a high status person. Because when folks look at you, and sure, maybe they don't see this car, maybe they don't see this luxury apartment, they don't see all this stuff, but they see a person who is actually taking themselves seriously instead of always talking. Do you know how common it is to just get that endorphin rush from something that you continuously talk about, that excites you, that is maybe a little bit daring, that maybe is a little bit out of the box, but you don't do anything about it? And instead, I was part of this camp for a while, so, watch my other videos. So I'm saying this from experience and compassion. To see a person who, yes, maybe you have a lot of great ideas, but you don't know how to execute, and then you are becoming that person to represent that what you want is actually possible, going through whatever it takes to get there, like the embarrassment, the fear of being seen, like the plot and the planning, all the in-between. That is inspiring. That is so inspiring. This dress that I got at the thrift store, right? I remember saying to my mom, who was with me at the thrift store, I was like, I can't imagine buying new clothes. Like I buy every place that I've ever lived has been like furnished to by like 90%, 95% from secondhand goods. My clothes, everything. I can confidently say, oh, I don't want to say everything, maybe 99%. Like I can think of 2 articles of clothing that I bought new. And that's just because that's who I am. It's not necessarily because it's like I'm trying to find the freedom equivalent for like a new shirt, but like I just love thrift stores. There is something that is so charming. Yesterday I found this dress. I'm going to put it up right here. I found this dress and I love the sweetheart neckline, right? It is so nice for I have pretty broad shoulders. It's so nice. And I hate this dress. And I love this dress. And I went through this whole emotional reaction to this dress because I don't love the color combination, but I love it. I don't love that it's abstract and it's not. I usually wear solids or florals or stripes, I don't really wear a lot of patterns. I don't wear a lot of things that my brain can't fully wrap its mind around. But I'm going through this transition of closing down my entire farm, leaving my job, leaving my house, and moving to a completely different country for a few years. But I'm looking at this dress and I'm having such a strong reaction to it. Like the epitome of love-hate. If something is going to be colorful, I don't want there to be any black in it. If something's going to be black, I want there to be one other color in it. And this dress is the antithesis of all of that. I think the reason that I loved it so much maybe is because it had features that I really loved, but it was also like a symbolism of transition in choosing things that maybe I normally would never. And that is like the charm that you can find no matter the ticket price of something. That dress was like $4. That is the charm in like secondhand items, thrifting, quality, colors, there's quirkiness, there's furnished like all of my apartments with it, right? And they've just bought so much interest in like old world sort of like humble cottage charm. And I'm saying all this because if you think about money as like choice, if you think about money as like a vote for value, then that can really change the spending habits that you have. What you can scan around you to be like, oh, I don't need this subscription. Oh, I don't need this. Oh, I don't need that. Shaving down, and you're storing up the choice for later, right? I was like just curious about this for months. And I ended up watching a documentary months ago about storage facilities in America. And it is crazy. It feels like an epidemic to me. It sounds like a crisis, but our relationship to stuff is out of this world. Imagine that there are 52 to 60,000 storage facilities, not units. There are 52 to 60,000 storage facilities in America. Guess how much they generate per year? This money, this dollar figure, I think about the freedom equivalent that could benefit thousands, millions of Americans. It generates $44 to $48 billion in gross annual revenue. Now, if you think about, sure, maybe for one person, the average is like $1,500 a year, up to $2,500 a year, maybe depending on like the unit and the location in the city, but $44 to $48 billion to pay to store stuff in a separate location from where you live. If it can't fit in the closet, if it can't fit in the basement, if it can't fit in your pantries, like chests of drawers, whatever, do you need it? Maybe the answer is no, but then it just sits on your back porch and like collects dust. But to pay, you're paying an industry that is grossing up to $48 billion a year. What could the freedom equivalent of all of that money be for the Americans that invest in especially long-term storage? If you're between places and you need, make something shake, all right. But like, you're paying storage for years. That it really just blows my mind, and it just shows that our relationship to stuff has gotten expensive in the lack of experiences, the lack of betting on yourself and going after what it is that you want, and like being strategic. But also it's just like literally taking money from your pocket that you could oh my gosh, do anything else with, Like savings, they represent like possibility, and they represent time. They represent like rest. They represent the possibility to move, to make a big move, provision, adventure, whatever it is, and I don't want a life that looks like chasing what others define as success. I want a life that really feels free and full of adventure and full of my choices. And they're not, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be hunky-dory and cool. It just means that if I'm in Spain, right, and I'm actually actively, seriously now looking for an apartment, it enables me that margin to be able to be like, you know what, my budget was, I don't know what it'll be, but maybe like 1,400 euros. But man, this one really has this feature that I love. And I don't have to be so strict to that. I can be like, okay, but it's 1,475 or it's 1,500 euros. All right, I can have that margin. It gives choice and possibility. If I want to, make friends, I can accept more lunch invitations. I'm not trying to have people pay my way, you feel me? So it's like, okay, I can accept more lunch invitations. That's like more relationships, more connections. If I, on a random weekend, am like, you know what? I'm feeling down, maybe, or something. I want to take the train to like Bordeaux, France. I can like hop on the train and go and pay for a weekend while also keeping my apartment. You know what I mean? Do you understand the picture that I'm trying to paint? It represents margin, breathing, rest, options, possibility. If you scan and try to determine what your freedom equivalents are throughout your life. Now, because I've saved for over 3 years, I'm going to continue to try to get that number up to 4 within 2 months. By scanning, by selling, right? By really taking it seriously and saying no. Saying no to a lot of things and finding that backbone and utilizing it. So this was a longer one. Thanks for listening if you did, everybody. If you've listened, I'm trying to do this little experiment. If you listen up until this point, please drop a picture of an animal in the comments section. And I will see you tomorrow in this next video in this daily YouTube posting journey. Thanks for listening, guys.